Okay, so this video will be about calculated fields and pivot tables seen in Google Sheets. Now the problem with calculated fields is that there is really not much documentation provided by Google. So some of these you kind of have to figure it out on your own, which means there might be some things that you will miss. But let's go ahead and get started. So this is our data. We had the first pivot table video. We do some basic pivot tables. Then the second one video about walking through all the functions you could do using pivot tables, right? And this one would be about calculated fields. Now if you don't know about pivot tables in general and you don't understand them, go ahead and watch those two videos first and then come back to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and create a pivot table, and we have some sales data and cost of goods data. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pivot table here. And I'm going to use my sales and cost of goods as values fields to sum them up. So add values. So sales, and I'm going to add another one, cost of goods. If I can find it, there it is. So and I'll break it down by, well, say region doesn't matter. So add row region. All right. So now I have our sales total and cost of goods total broken down by region. So the next thing we may want to do is get our net. So basically we want to take the total minus cost of goods to get our net sales. And we don't have a particular column for net sales. We can do this in our pivot table using a calculated field. So I'm going to go here and add a field. And if I scroll the way down, you'll see there's an option calculated field. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So I'm going to go ahead and name this. So net. And we have to provide our formula. So my net is going to be sales minus cost of goods. So I'm going to say the column for sales. See, it's a sum of sales. Sales is the actual field name. So I'm going to do sales minus whatever the column is called. So there it is. So getting back here, see this, the column name here, column name here. Perfect. So that gets us the difference. Format this or do whatever you feel is right. So that's our difference. Sales minus cost of goods, and we have our calculated field. So this is a basic way of creating a calculated field. So if I wanted to get, let's say, my profit margin, right, what do I have to do? I'm going to take my cost of goods divided by sales. And I will have to do 1 minus that to get it. So that's our profit margin. So percentage there. So you can see what our profit margin is. So again, instead of net, I guess we'll call it profit margin. And this should give us again our profit margin, right? So again, we can do calculation. You take a field, you can do divisions, multiplication, subtractions, additions, obviously, all of those things. I'll simplify this a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do some more numbers here. So let me go here and remove this, get back to basics. So that's our sum of sales. The next thing I'm going to do, I will try to create a new field. So I'll go and count how many unique states we have in each region, right? So I'm going to get my add field, and the field I'm going to use is going to be state, apparently, and I'm going to go count unique. So again, if you don't know about this function, I've covered this in the second video. Go ahead and watch that. So there it is. So from 7 states, we've generated this much income. And now we want to know how much income we have per state. So we want to take this number and divide it by this number. Now if we go and create a calculated field and call it revenue per state or something like that, I'm going to the Raven per state, something like that. And here, now what's going to be our formula? So if I just take my sales, right, and divide it by state and hit enter, what do we get? We get this division by 0 error. And what it is, if I just type state here to see what I'm getting, see, it just gets zeros for states, because right now what we're doing, we're summing states. And the state is bunch of text, and we sum up a lot of text, we get a 0 as a result. Then we take this number divided by that sum and we get what we get. So what's happening here is that we cannot use summarized by sum anymore. We'll have to create something custom. So we're going to switch the sum summarized custom. And what I'm going to do is, when you do custom, you have to actually provide what function you're going to use on the field. So instead of just saying, let's take sales, right, and divide it by something else, we're going to say, let's take sum of sales. So I'm going to put it in a sum function. And then I'm going to divide it by count unique, which is the function we have for our state field state, and close that. Hit enter. So now we cannot keep it as a percentage because this is going to be a dollar amount. So there it is, that number divided by 7, that number divided by 3, and so on. So that's our calculated field. And what we did with switch to custom, and now we can use any function we want to get our totals. In the list of functions, for example, in pivot tables, we have things like standard deviation, we have sum, we have standard deviation for population, for sample. But one function that's not available in the list. So if I go here and see the sum of sales we have, see we have count, unique average, etc., median. One function we don't have here is average deviation. So what if I wanted to get average deviation for all of our satisfaction scores? So if I go here, again, I'm going to remove this and I want to keep it simple. I'm going to add values and I'm going to do satisfaction score. And if we wanted to see what's our average satisfaction score, we would switch this to average, right? That's our average satisfaction score per region. Now we can also do the median satisfaction score or standard deviation. But what if I wanted to do average deviation? So actually, I'm going to just do this average to keep the field, and I'm going to make one more. And this one is going to be a calculated field because we want to do average deviation. So I'm going to say average deviation. And here I'm going to switch this to custom. And the function we'll use is a, v, e, d, e, v. So if you don't know what this function does, I have a separate video about standard deviation, average deviation, variance, all of those functions, and it covers all of this. And the field I want to use is satisfaction score. So satisfaction score, you have to be careful to not misspell this. And hit enter. There it is. That's my average deviation. So now I can actually use a function that's not even available in our functions list. Now what are some other things we may want to do? So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to move this to sum again. And maybe just not satisfaction score. Let's change this to sales now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a column. And I want to take each one of these numbers and divide it by this grand total we have of all sales. To see what percentage is this of this number, what percentage is this? In other way, if I was trying to do this with a formula, I would say let's take this divided by this, and I would incur this, cell down and drag this over, and then represent this in percentages. So that's what I'm trying to get, but I'm trying to get it in a calculated field. If you were in Excel, Excel has a built-in functionality for this. Google Sheet doesn't. But if you're working with a single column pivot like this, you can actually get that tricky way. So what do I mean by that? So what I mean by this is, let me just do something different. I'm going to go ahead and get this number. What is this number? This number is the sum of all of these sales numbers. Right? So if I was doing that here, I would say equals sum, open parentheses, go to my transactions tab, get all of these sales numbers. I'm going to click on the first one, do my Control-Shift arrow key down to highlight all of those numbers and close my parentheses and enter. That's going to give me that same exact number. I'm just summing them up. So what I want to do, I'm just going to copy the function that I've created right here. Not including the equals sign. Get out of this. Now I'm going to go put my pivot and I'm going to make a calculated field. And I'm going to say, I don't know, percentage. And here, I'm going to switch this to custom. So what do I want to do? I want to take this, which is sum of my sales. So sum of sales. And I'm going to divide it by, so what I divide it by, I'm going to do that function that I had. So it's the sum of that total. So I've never found a way to actually refer to the grand total in the pivot. If somebody figured that out, let me know. I don't think there is a way, but who knows? Maybe there is one. As I said, there is really no documentation from Google on this. So you just have to kind of figure it out. So I'm going to hit enter. See, now I have this percentages. Now we have our percentages. So now I can go and change from instead of region. Maybe we can break this thumb by state or something. And now we should have what percentage it is. And we should probably do the whole column here. So now we have our percentages, 10%, 6 point, whatever, and so on until we get to the total. So that's another way to create a calculated field. Maybe we can use a formula completely separate from our pivot table right inside of our calculated field. That's that. Let's go ahead and simplify this again. Remove that. Let's see what else we might want to do that could be interesting. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually delete this whole tab we have here. And first of all, I want to do some analysis on age, but I want to group people in particular age groups when I do this. And for that, I will have to do some extra data analysis here. So I'm going to make a new tab, call it Age Groups. There we are. So here I'm going to define what my age groups are going to be. I'm going to create a little table for VLOOKUPs. Again, if you're not familiar with VLOOKUPs, I have good video on that. So I have to figure out what ages we have. So that's a minimal maintain maximum 76, got it. So we'll start from 18 through 23, I guess. And then the next bracket will do. I don't know, we do let this thing do some brackets for us. So those would be our brackets. And I'm going to concatenate some text here, which is going to be this. Let's just use join 2 and comma. And then I'll use these two together. 18 to 23. And this one will be 73 too. I'm just going to type it 73 and up. Just some names for those columns. And these are going to be our ranges. So I'm going to put this in different brackets. So I'm going to say age group right here. And I'll use a VLOOKUP to figure out which bracket each one falls in, which will be our approximate match equals the lookup. And the first thing is what we're searching for. I'm searching for this customer's age, comma. And I'm going to look for it in this VLOOKUP table that I made. And I'm going to press F4 to lock that comma. And I'm going to need the second column. I want to label them. And this needs to be a sorted option, which is 1 or true. Hit enter, that figures out what age group this person is in. So I go here, double click to send this down. Control arrow K down. Hopefully to make sure everything is good. So see 57, that's perfect. So now we have everybody grouped in different age groups by doing this. Again, if you're not sure what I did here, watch the VLOOKUP series with this, but right now we just have categories of age groups. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pivot table. And I'll choose and browse my age group. We can also do under values now, for example, our sales again, right? That should give us total sales per age group. Now what I'm going to do, instead of doing the dollar amount, I will try to do the satisfaction score to see if our customers are satisfied. So I'll do the average, I guess, right now. And you can see 4.1 here, 7.5 here. So different groups see, for example, this group is over here. Well, actually, starting from 53 and up, they're not that satisfied, I guess. Their score is somewhere about like 3 to 4 area here. It's fairly good. And in this group, not so good again. So I can do the median. So see what the median number is, which is good for 8, 7, 7, 7, that's good. So there is our numbers. So I went back to average here. Well, it could really be either or, right? So what I want to do right now, I want to do something that's kind of weird and funny that it will work. But what I'm going to do, instead of displaying numbers, maybe we want to do the satisfaction score this way. So we have the satisfaction scores and they range from 1 to 10, 1 obviously being the lowest, 10 being the highest. But instead of being like 1, 2 or 3 satisfaction score, we just want to say, satisfied, very satisfied, not satisfied, something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and make another table, another tab here, I'll call it satisfaction. Groups, I guess. And here I'm going to do some categories. So I'll go for people from 1 through 4. For do we want to include 4 in that? I don't know. So let's look at our pivot table that should tell us. Let's say we want to include all the way up to 4 in this particular range. So we'll say from where are we? There it is from 1 through 5, meaning 1 through 4 up to 5 will be included in the first range and we'll call not satisfied. And then the second will be 5 through 7. We'll call this set satisfied. Great, caps lock is on set. Spied. Obviously typing is not one of my best. Anyway, so satisfied and finally very satisfied. So that's the new VLOOKUP table I'm going to do. And this way I want to categorize people in different brackets depending on which bracket they fall in. And to do that, I would basically have to just do a VLOOKUP, right? So I would have to say equals VLOOKUP. And I would have to take the number of that person, go to the satisfaction groups, highlight my table again, effort to lock it, I want the second column, and this should be a sorted or approximate match, what we call it 1. So hit OK, so not satisfied. Now I could obviously just copy this down and get for each one of them, but what I want to do instead, I want to make this a calculated field. So I'm going to go and highlight this formula, copy it and go to my pivot table, and I'm going to make a calculated field. And I'm going to add field calculated field. So this number that we're getting is from, so the name doesn't matter. So this will be a custom calculation. So the number we're getting is average. So first of all, I'm just going to paste that VLOOKUP formula. And that obviously doesn't work because there's this reference in there involved. So instead, what I'm going to do, instead of typing that B1, which was referring to cell, I will say, let's take the average, which is the average right here of satisfaction, score close to parents there. And there we have it. So now we actually get our VLOOKUP to basically sort this things out. So we can actually get text as a value, as an end result with tricks like this. So now I'm getting a VLOOKUP formula. I'm looking up the average and getting if the person is satisfied or not. We don't have to really keep this column satisfaction score. We could just say, hey, there it is. So these are different groups and some of them are satisfied or not satisfied. Some of them are very satisfied, depending on what their satisfaction score is. Overall, we have grand total of satisfied. So now that we have this, we can also add like average deviation for this. We can add a custom calculated field. And this one again, if you name them appropriately, I'm not going to spend time on that custom. I'm going to go AV, DEV. And the field I want to use is satisfaction score. And there we have it. Whether they're satisfied or not, then we have average deviation for our satisfaction scores. So that's it for this. Thanks for watching and please subscribe.